We want to bring in now Global Studies Fellow and Assistant Professor with the University of Tennessee, Gary Uzonyi, to put what's happening in perspective. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Well, our first question is, let's just start with, what is the Taliban?
So the Taliban is a rebel movement that formed in the early 1990s in opposition to the government that took control of Afghanistan following the withdrawal of the Soviet Union. They promised to stabilize the country and to rule under a stricter Islamic law. By 1996, the Taliban had taken control of the government and remained in power until the U.S. invasion in 2001. Since then, the Taliban has been engaged in an insurgency trying to regain control of Afghanistan.
And you've given us a date just there, 2001. Let's talk through the history of the United States' presence in Afghanistan.
Sure. So in 2001, the United States invaded Afghanistan as the Taliban had offered harbor for al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. In 2001, the U.S. was able to topple the Taliban, who then went into an insurgency-type mode. Again, this is a small rebellion, ramping up, trying to retake the country. And the U.S. worked to stabilize a democratic government in Afghanistan over the next several years. But by 2003, attention had largely shifted to Iraq, despite the U.S.'s promises to continue to focus on Afghanistan, seeing Afghanistan as a strategic partner in the global war on terror. And since that time, what we've seen is the different administrations who have been in power here in the United States take different approaches to dealing with the ongoing insurgency of the Taliban that really ramped up around 2006.
And obviously seeing it come to a head now, can we explain what the Taliban takeover means for Afghanistan now and why so many people are trying to get away from them?
Yes, so when the Taliban was in control of Afghanistan beginning in 1996, they ruled under a strict Islamic law. So they were heavily repressive, especially to women and girls. They harbored terrorists, and they weren't ever fully able to stabilize the country. So a lot of the people in Afghanistan today remember what that regime was like in the early 90s. Now, as you mentioned, the Taliban is saying they're not going to be as repressive. They're going to respect human rights. They're going to allow women to work, to get an education, and that they will not harbor terrorists moving forward. There is a lot of concern as to whether these are just words that the international community wants to hear, or whether these will be the actions that the Taliban will take moving forward.
Uzonyi with UT Global Studies, thank you for that context tonight.